William Wesley Van Orsdale, Brother Van, seems to have been born a missionary or was converted to one early in his life.
I was born near Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in 1848. Stubborn Dutch on my father's side, gentle English on my mother's. In my early boyhood life, I was surrounded by the most religious of influences, my father and mother being devout Christians and members of the Methodist Church.
Early in his life, filled by the moving of the Holy Spirit to go work in the vineyard of the Lord, his thoughts turned to the new territory of Montana with a force of conviction he could not throw off. By his early 20s, he was on his way. Finding a riverboat heading west, he paid for passage by singing, preaching, and praying.
We reached Fort Benton by the steamer Far West on Sabbath morning, June 30th, 1872 at 7 a.m. Searching for a place to hold a service, I found the only available spot was a saloon. There was a large congregation of businessmen, freighters, and rivermen. There was only one lady.
With faith that overlooked obstacles higher than the Rocky Mountains, he sang, prayed, and shouted his way to victory and built the kingdom of heaven in this land of the shining mountains. There were no trails that led to the hearts of mule skinners, bullwhackers, prospectors, traders, gamblers, and outcasts. He made his way into the lives and affections of the people and left trails there for others to follow. The consistent and unwavering pursuit of his life's joyous work and optimistic greeting of saints and sinners were powerful influences for good. He was not a well-educated man, nor a studious man, but he always had the Bible, a hymnal, and the discipline with him. He had sharp eyes and a retentive memory. He read or scanned daily papers and church periodicals. He was conversant with the leading issues of both church and state.
Not long after arriving in Montana, Jenny Johnston came into my life. We planned to marry, but while she was away at school, she caught tuberculosis and died. I never talked about her again till near the end of my life.
After he died, his longtime secretary, Leafy Regal, told friends she and Brother Van had planned to marry.
I loved the natives before I even saw them. When God called me to Montana, I knew that's where I wanted to serve. Soon I was adopted into the Blackfeet tribe and given the name Greatheart.
Charlie Russell, or C.M. Russell, is known throughout the West for his paintings and drawings. This story, told by Brother Van, became Brother Van on a Buffalo Hunt.
It takes the most vivid imagination to picture the broad prairies covered with buffalo. And yet, this was once the condition. January 1873, early in the morning, we set out with a party of 25 warriors for a buffalo hunt. We did not wait long before a large herd of buffalo came rushing down a coulee on a genuine stampede. From then on, it was a running chase and fight. The warriors rode beside the buffalo and shot from the ponies. The pony that I rode was swift and was used to hunting buffalo, and I was able to keep up at the head of the herd with the warriors. Myself, I shot only one. The Indians said that was a great feat because my one was shot at the head of the herd. That night we had a feast. Oh, such a feast. Once a friend and I were at a powwow and became part of a circle of about 100 people. When a native came around with the kettle, each man put his hand into the kettle and got a piece of meat. I took my piece and I asked, "Buffalo or beef?" He replied, "Him fine fat dog." I put the meat in my mouth, but once he walked on, I spat the meat into my hand, dropped it, and ground it onto the dirt.
One tribute he would have liked came from an old Blackfeet brave who, when told of his death, said sadly, "Our Brother Van is dead, is he? Well, the red man has one friend in heaven."
As a circuit rider, I arrived in Bannock to find all the gambling houses and saloons were open on Sunday. My first service was held in a saloon, as were many of the subsequent ones. In 1877, the year after General George Custer in the Battle of the Little Bighorn, the non-treaty Nez Perce had fought and defeated the army not far from Bannock. I watched as settlers from the entire area poured into town. Our prayers were answered. The Nez Perce never came close to town. Then many of those settlers helped me build the first church there in Bannock. Years ago, I rode into a small town. I had no idea why the townspeople treated me with such suspicion until I heard whispers about a horse thief. Now, horse stealing back then was a crime only a shade less serious than murder and punishable by hanging. I escaped the noose by singing a gospel hymn. That ended the coolness, and they recognized who I was. Later I joked, had a good revival at Raidersburg. I saved a man just through my singing. Who? Me. And we all laughed.
Brother Regan and Brother Van met in Montana. Regan did the preaching and was the administrator. Van did the singing and exhorting. They made a wonderful team. They were Christianity and civilization in the gold mining wilderness of southwestern Montana. Brother Van indulged his passion for building churches in Montana. He established more than 100 churches and 50 parsonages. 6 years after gold was discovered in 1862, Montana Methodism began when the first sermon was preached in Sheridan, Montana. The original church was dedicated in 1873 with the help of Brother Van and F.A. Regan. When Reverend J.A. Martin had the Great Falls Parsonage built in 1910, he included a room for Brother Van. That room was located at the top of the stairs on the second floor, so he didn't disturb the family when he came in late at night. This historic Methodist parsonage is now the Brother Van House Museum. Rocky Mountain College in Billings has 4 predecessors. One of the most important is Brother Van's Montana Wesleyan College.
Montana Wesleyan had abandoned the building that I saw as a black eye for Methodist, and I prayed it into a Montana deaconess school. I hired Miss Louise Stork, one of the best things I have done. She was the deaconess who made it all work.
Brother Van lived a life of radiant joy and shared it with all the children. But perhaps the greatest legacy he left them was his love of music. They sang together during his visits, at his bedside following his stroke, and at his funeral. With faith that laughed at impossibilities and exceptional leadership, Brother Van helped bring the deaconesses to run the 7 deaconess hospitals in Montana. Deaconess Augusta Aris got the first hospital up and running and established the nurses' school. By today's standards, he wasn't much of a preacher, but he was the right man for his time. His brand of fervent fundamentalist religion, along with the sheer verve he gave his evangelism, made it convincing. Oh, you knew he loved the Lord, and before he got through, you loved the Lord too. But his real power lay in charismatic personality and song. He chose the best and was ready at all times with an appropriate verse.
His gentle, sure way was the finest example I've ever known of what a true Christ-like person should or could be. I knew that Christ spent his life caring for others, and Brother Van was just like that. He never lost sight of the fact that he was a minister of God.
As a small child, I sat on Brother Van's lap and had a vague idea that he was God. Brother Van never forgot anyone. He was never known to be unkind, and the power of his personality endeared him to all.
This great expansive prairie was mostly peacefully settled. However, in a few cases during those years of intense tension and strain, a happy peacemaker was really a great service. Brother Van, the prince of diplomats, met this wrath and bitterness, checked them, dissolved selfishness, and taught everyone that the finest of all the fine arts was the simple art of living together.
One day, Dad came with a wagon load of hay into our farmyard. Brother Van was perched on top of the hay. He called out, "Hello, sister, what's for dinner this noon?" "Roast beef," she answered. "Praise the Lord," Brother Van replied enthusiastically. "Every time I get within 10 miles of a place, they head for the nearest chicken."
Brother Van said to me, "You and I have been very closely associated all these years. We've traveled many miles together through the summer's heat with mosquitoes, flies, and gnats worrying us, and in the blizzards of winter when it was hard to keep from freezing.
When Brother Van died, the governor ordered that all flags in Montana fly at half-mast to honor this best-loved man in Montana for his ministry, music, and compassion for all. This is the first time the flags flew at half-mast for a civilian.
His 47 years of life and work in Montana may be summed up as 7 years of Methodist ministry at large, 10 years in the pastorate, and 30 in the supervision of districts. He rode thousands of miles on the hurricane deck of a cayuse, preaching the gospel in every cow town and mining camp and in cabins remote from civilization. This was William Wesley Van Orsdale, but nobody called him that. He was Brother Van to everyone, the members of the Ladies' Aid, and the habitués of the Silver Dollar. Today, the old packed trails have become grand highways along which rush the truck and car that were not even a dream when Brother Van landed on the shores at Old Fort Benton. The Concorde coach had been replaced by airplanes. The buffalo lost out to great herds of cattle and sheep, the natives to the cowboy and the farmer. The freighter is gone, his wagons are broken, his mules played out, but Brother Van's contributions are still making the western plains ring with songs and praise. Brother Van brought friendship and hope and courage to lonely men and women and to aspiring young people. Natives and newcomers welcomed his help, for, as they put it, he prayed lucky. There is a need today. There will always be a need for that same ministry. The seed I have scattered in springtime with weeping and watered with tears and with dews from on high. Another may shout when the harvester's reaping, shall gather my grain in the sweet by and by. Over and over, yes, deeper and deeper, my heart is pierced through with life's sorrowing cry. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. By and by, by and by, by and by, by and by. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. Another may reap what in springtime I've planted, another rejoice in the fruit of my pain, not knowing my tears when in summer I fainted, while toiling sad-hearted in sunshine and rain. Over and over, yes, deeper and deeper, my heart is pierced through with life's sorrowing cry. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. By and by, by and by, by and by, by and by. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. The thorns will have choked and the summer sun blasted the most of the seed which in springtime I've sown. But the Lord who has watched while my weary toil lasted will give me a harvest for what I have done. Over and over, yes, deeper and deeper, my heart is pierced through with life's sorrowing cry. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. By and by, by and by, by and by, by and by. But the tears of the sower and the songs of the reaper shall mingle together in joy by and by. Then palms of